Welcome back, folks, to another awesome podcast. And I've got Stephen and Jonathan here from Kraken. Thanks, fellas, for joining us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to be here, Mark.
We've got some amazing news that is coming out for folks that may not have been at the Oz DeFi event on Wednesday of last week. And if you haven't, stay tuned for the rest of this episode because it'll be towards the end. But just before we get started, it's always great to get to know folks doing awesome work in the space. If you could just share with the great people watching this a bit about both of your backgrounds, what were you doing before? And what led you into, getting into crypto and Kraken?
Cool. Well, I'll give it a shot at starting. And my story goes back to, 2013, 14 is when I got introduced to Bitcoin. And before that, I was in software. And I guess technically I still am by extension of being, at Kraken here. But, I was much more directly involved. We ran a small shop, got really interested in distributed ledger technology in blockchain. I was, kind of fresh out of university several years prior. And at that point, I was looking at macroeconomic markets, money, supranational currency. And then I kind of got, into software and was working in a small shop. But then the worlds collided when I was introduced to Bitcoin and kind of went on from there to getting really deep, meeting some amazing people at, really early Bitcoin meetups, meeting early contributors to Ethereum, and getting fascinated by the possibilities. So that kind of the long story there was that we started an exchange called BitTrade that got acquired by Kraken now just over 5 years ago. And I'm here today with Stephen at Kraken, and it's still, I guess, inspiring to me to see what's possible with this technology. And I'll throw to you.
Yeah, the way I sort of got interested in the space was like many others was due to like price movement. I remember in 2017 there was like massive hysteria about Bitcoin. I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. And yeah, got like dabbled into the space back then, but I think really got really super interested in learning more about the technology and sort of how it works. And later in like 20,000, like 4 years ago. And back then I had like a background in finance. I was working in like traditional finance, and I could really see, I wanted to be like working on the next thing, and I could really see the scope of crypto and blockchain technology sort of, being sort of a new frontier in the world of finance. And yeah, like just been really interested in the space and, things like decentralized finance, really believe that it's the way forward. And made my way into Kraken, and yeah, it's been great sort of being in the space.
Fantastic to hear. I think it's always interesting hearing the backgrounds of people before. We weren't just born in this space, right? Like we all had backgrounds and stuff as maybe some were. This is exactly right. The macroeconomics thing. Just touching on that. That's interesting because my background before was as a quasi equity researcher, qualified equity researcher. I did my CISI exams in London and stuff to qualify there. Like it's like your Series 7 that you see, the US needs. So that was my background, but it was macroeconomics. I was looking at global trade and even international kind of trade or intranational, where it was much more about like looking at government statistics and all of these things that people ignored. And given that like with blockchain and data, there's so much more of it. Like I wish I was a researcher in this space because it's just so much easier to analyze things. Sure, you don't have exactly the right kind of framing, but you can create that. You actually get to come up with what is necessary. And then going back to the DeFi thing that you said, Jonathan, what you said there, Stephen, DeFi is really interesting to us. Obviously, we're on the Oz DeFi show right now. We'll speak about something there later on that we're doing together between Oz DeFi and Kraken, just reminding folks that have just tuned in. But, DeFi to us, it's not just about the trading side of things, but it's also about like the future of finance, commercial rails, and what decentralized finance means for transactions, for payments, for unlocking things that were just impossible without programmable money. And so we're big advocates for that. But I'd love to talk about Kraken a bit more and the work that you're both doing there. And basically, we had a discussion for folks that are listening. We had a discussion a few weeks ago about what we could do together, and you guys pointed out some really interesting about, the CEO and wanting to get back more into the essence of blockchain, the innovation side, what that really means. And yeah, just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Maybe if you could just tell us both like what your roles are at Kraken, and we can talk about, what does innovation mean?
Sure. So I'm the MD or GM for Kraken in both Australia, but also what we call at a US-centric firm, rest of world, which at this point encompasses a whole kind of swathe of APAC and LATAM, not to mention Africa. But I think Kraken's an interesting business, and it's founded, kind of forged in the fire of what were the kind of burning ashes of Mount Gox, and Jesse Powell, who along with Tan founded Kraken at the time, wanted to professionalize crypto exchanges. And that's because, this is well before DeFi, right? Like this is when you had to send money off to Japan to get access to the deepest, most liquid market. And they wanted to do a better job of making sure that when people did trust an institution or a business with their money to make a swap on a market, that the business followed through and remained trustworthy. And so that's been the core kind of driving principle. But at the same time, there's been a parallel stream of innovation, because I think doing a really good job, even just of the security side, has required significant lateral thinking, innovation inside the firm. Adopting a lot of the crypto policies that or practices that I think was quite early for a business like ours to kind of integrate PGP into support emails, to give clients master keys for their account, to use the same kinds of cryptography to verify assets with proof of reserves, all these kinds of innovations, and to be really connected to the innovation community of crypto. I think we were the first platform to list Ethereum, to provide staking services for Ethereum, proof of work and proof of stake. That transition we were at the forefront of. So I think, Kraken has, by just default being around so long, is innovative. But I think what I was talking to you about a couple of weeks ago was how we're supercharging that now. And we're not standing here saying we're the first to do this, but in creation of layer twos like Ink, I think are really important to provide services, but providing support for really important protocols like Lightning. We were one of the first, and we've been a long time supporter of the Bitcoin Foundation. So I guess Kraken is entwined in the decentralized kind of innovation sphere, and we're trying to continue to be at the forefront, or at very least at the vanguard, alongside a whole lot of other amazing businesses investing and doing cool stuff. And so we can talk a bit more about that. I'm not sure if there's other points you'd like to raise, Stephen.
I think you've captured most of the points there. I think one thing that really stood out to me was the culture was more mission oriented, where the founders and the top down, you could see people really cared about adoption and widespread of crypto and blockchain. No matter sort of how, even if that involved working with the other partners, it was more about the mission. So it's always been more about the mission, which is something that really sort of called out to me. And you can see that in the way, I guess, people communicate about the different issues. So yeah, that's something that really sort of stood out to me as we've sort of moved forward.
I think it's interesting, what you mentioned there, the OG-ness of this. It's like that there's a lot of great exchanges out there right now, but given the involvement that was there for Kraken as a whole, for early Ethereum, for early, other innovations that we've seen in the space, it's like old but new. It's like it's a revamp. It's some like for us especially, like getting involved with Kraken, as we will announce very shortly more on. I think the innovations that you've created that you've mentioned there, there's also like the support and highlighting of innovations in the space that we see, because without all of these things going on, like I'm just going to mention Project Acacia because I think it was just last week that we saw the announcements about who all of the 24 use cases were. We've got one of them, not centralized. The other hat I wear. Our friends at Red Belly are listed as part of 4 of those. There's the banks, there's other innovative players like Australian Bond Exchange, Imperium Markets, some new players that weren't there in the 2023 tests. But how important, my question, sorry, roundabout way, you'll get used to it. How important is like on the ground local tests like this, pilots? Before it was a test, now it's more of a pilot, it's more real world money than it was before. But how important do you think these things are in terms of like adoption of crypto overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you have all these like companies, especially like traditional finance companies, getting involved in the space, and they're having like a framework to it under which they can operate and do these test pilots and like it's make it a clear pathway of actually like implementing something real life. I think ultimately that's what people really want, right? It's about getting real like applications that customers can, or people can, users can actually use and add values to the day-to-day life. So what's happening right now with Acacia is like I see it as a pathway to that, and anything we can do to, I guess, like get access to this the underlying technology and really make it make it a seamless transition into day-to-day lives of people. I think it's always welcome.
And I think that's something that is true in other markets as well. And one thing that I think more recently, although this is not in Australia, we'd like to try and bring that here. You might have seen some news about Kraken's rollout of tokenized equities as part of a broader story for tokenization, which I think Project Acacia really is about. And for us, that's I guess another kind of investment in another ecosystem, a Solana ecosystem to begin with. But tokenization as a theme, as a thematic, I think needs to be localized, because you start touching the perimeters, and I don't want to kind of get bogged down in a regulatory discussion, but really that's a really important part about how society operates is, within a kind of set of boundaries, and to kind of bring it full circle back to, I guess when I was looking at supranational currency and this kind of technology that's above the state, perhaps, with Bitcoin. But it has to integrate with states no matter what, because that's where people are. So there's a really interesting kind of dynamic and tension, but I think that's what innovation really is. It's about kind of pushing the edge of a particular boundary, and that boundary might be a really kind of technical limitation. It might be how small can you make a resistance on a semiconductor? We're at 2 nanometers now, whatever it is, and it can be, how can you reinvent the way that we think about rights in a society? And I think when it comes to crypto innovation, the thing that I find really fascinating about it is that it touches both of those things. It's both technical but also political, and I think that's rare.
I think that is, and the ability to, this is not just tech, but this is also changing how we can interact in terms of payments. But interacting in terms of payments also, it covers just how we enforce and how we provide like the rules and regulations that encompass a more civil society. We've got great things right now. We've got the rule of law, we've got regulations, but you have enforcement after the fact. I think with programmability, you can have things where things are part of, you just don't let bad actors do certain things anymore, because it's just not programmed into it. You have to be whitelisted of certain things and whatnot, as well as all the innovation side of things that we can have, such as tokenized stocks you just mentioned there. I think that a lot of people are just starting to learn more about that, and we'll have to do like a series on each of these innovations that the Kraken has. But from tokenized stocks, you've also got ink that you mentioned there. There's also the payments through Crack. KRAK, great name. But for folks that haven't heard about, you mentioned the layer 2 before, Ink, and also Crack. Like, what are those? Like, can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Why don't I start with Ink and then I'll throw to Stephen for Crack. So Ink is an L2. It's part of the super chain. So it's a Ethereum EVM compatible L2. And it's Ink because Kraken is a squid. That's what you do with your hand. If you want to do the symbol, we'll have to come up with a cool way to spread the word on that. But yeah, good, isn't it? But the premise there is we want to create an ecosystem that we can support, that we can innovate on directly ourselves, that we can integrate into our platform. There's more to come around that. We do have a DeFi wallet. It's not well promoted. It's kind of in semi-stealth. It exists, but we're going to continue to innovate around that. And that really is, the convergence of DeFi, CeFi, and TradFi is happening. And so it's only by experimenting and having a cool place to experiment that you facilitate that convergence. So that's what Ink is. It's an L2. And we'll try and do some cool stuff around that throughout the year. I think we'll try and make some announcements and maybe even get some of those guys to get a bit more present here in Australia. But maybe we'll talk about Crack, and that's another one cool name. Oh, they're all cool names. Let's face it.
Yeah, so Crack, the name of which is there's a lot of debate internally about that name, but it's definitely a catchy one. But yeah, Crack is sort of our attempt to get into like the payment space. We know that that's sort of a sector that's really ripe for disruption, and a lot of the underlying technology when it comes to payments. Like I think that's where crypto really has an opportunity to shine and add real value to people. So I think the whole premise with Crack is just to make payments between the P2P payments seamless and really quick with a really good. The focus is on like UI a lot to make it a seamless experience for users to transfer money across borders in a really easy way and user friendly way. That's like the main thing, and there's like add-ons to that. I think there's also plans to add like card payments along to Crack, and other things like rewards on stable coins is also like in the work. So yeah, it's basically payments, a P2P payments type of app that they're launching.
Yeah, and the sad thing is not here in Australia yet, but stay tuned. That'll be an announcement imminent.
Imminently. Looking forward to an announcement like that. And you're right, like great names there, very catchy. I think you definitely turn some heads with those. And I like the, with Kraken, obviously there is the Kraken in ancient sea shanty type mythology and whatnot. Whatever it is, whether it's Moby Dick or whatever else people want to read. But I think, it goes great with some of the other sponsors that we've got that we'll talk about some other time. But who also has like a sea related theme, a great group we both know. But speaking of sponsorships, the big announcement is that we are going to be getting into business together to deliver much more on the ground events, community networking, a whole heap of great stuff that we've got in the woodworks. It starts out with the event, but then there's so much more that we're going to be able to do over the next 12 months around Sydney. We're activating Perth again. We're going to be in Melbourne. We'll try for some other cities as that comes along. But yeah, there's going to be some great stuff, and we'll be making more of that announcement shortly. But I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks guys for backing us and the community that are watching this. And wanted to get some of your thoughts on all of this. What does kind of a community sponsorship like this mean to you guys?
Yeah, it's really great. It's a privilege to be part of the Oz DeFi community, and we're looking forward to supporting you through all the events throughout the next 12 months and then hopefully beyond. But for me, it's extremely important because just personally, I remember going to meetups when I first came into the space, and they've always been a really, I think, critical part of what this sector is about. It's about sharing ideas and and debating, frankly, I think arguing, like all cool open source stuff. It's no one agrees on everything. And it's also, I think, a really great opportunity to learn for us more about what's happening in the Australian DeFi scene, and to be participant to that, to be able to get involved. And you never know where those kind of conversations over pizza, beer, and a cool presentation can lead. So really excited, a real privilege, and looking forward to talking about more of this cool stuff that we're thinking about and building out with you, Mark, and your team behind the scenes.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, a big part of this as well is that when we started out, like our origin stories going back to late 2021 as a little WhatsApp group that turned into a Discord, that turned into people wanting to get together for beers, because we didn't intend to actually become a meetup. We're glad we are. And we've been able to meet and learn from some amazing people in the space in our early days. And it's led to what we're doing now, where we've participated in things from Commonwealth Treasury roundtables to Canberra parliamentary Friends of Blockchain events, to partnering with DECA, the Digital Economy Council of Australia, and then taking all of that information and learning back to the grassroots and feeding information back up, and just being this nice middle ground for innovation. And it just makes total sense. When you guys told me your story about what it is that Kraken's looking to do, I think it just makes a whole lot of sense for this sort of partnership. And I'm sure that we're going to come up with some great ideas, probably some already from the Wednesday last week that just came out. But, do you have any words for the folks that want to know like more about Kraken? Like, where can they reach out and learn more about it? Obviously, we're going to be pushing some more stuff over the coming months, but like just right now for people that want to learn and understand, maybe they picked up on tokenized stocks, maybe they want to talk about ink, or maybe they just want to learn more about what Kraken's doing here in Australia. How best do they reach you both, Stephen and Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously hit us up on relevant socials. I'm on X, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm responsive there, and come up to us. We'll be at a fair few of these meets, both here and in other cities, which is really cool and exciting. And yeah, keen to meet people and have these convos. So looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
Yeah, I think reaching out to us on LinkedIn is always, someone wants to reach out directly. That's it's always welcome. And you're looking forward to actually meeting people at this event. Like that was one of like these, the Bitcoin and the DeFi events like earlier in Sydney were the ones that I attended, and sort of it was a way for me to sort of get into the community. And it's also like whenever we've done sort of smaller events here in Sydney, it's always been great to like meet people, and like they're able to directly ask people questions to us, and you get to learn from other people who are doing really innovative stuff.
Tech is wild and the future's untamed. Blockchain blazing, carving new lanes. AI whispers in a silicon scheme. Dreams coded deep in a mainframe dream. Algorithms dance on this digital dirt. Crypto's buzzing while the old rules hurt. From Sydney skies to the outback globe. Emerging tech is the game we throw.